Heyman and I will be here every Thursday, 8 p.m. on FanCred. You can see us live on the app or streaming at fancredsports.com/on-air. You got that? fancredsports.com/on/air. Each week, we're going to be bringing you different guests. Jon and I are going to be filling you in on everything that's going on in the world of baseball. And you, the fans, can actually come on, chat with us live, ask us anything. So that's the best part of this whole experience. Here's how it works. To ask a question live, you need to be on the FanCred app. Hit the fan line button that's in the top right and go onto our virtual green room. Then our producer will take it from there. He'll ask you the question, and then hopefully you can come on and get right on with us. We can put your questions in the comments as well, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. So, Jon, welcome.
It is great to be here. I've never been on camera in my living room before. I hope nobody's critiquing my styling abilities. They're not very good. But I'm anxious to talk baseball with you. I've known you for a long time from Boston, and this is going to be terrific.
This is going to be great. We're going to start off with the news that everyone is talking about, and that is the Manny Machado blockbuster trade. Obviously, Manny Machado going over to the Dodgers. The Dodgers sending 5 prospects to the Orioles. All in all, who do you think won this trade? A lot of people are just very quick to say Los Angeles, but what are your thoughts?
I actually think both won it. I hate to be wishy-washy. I will have some criticisms in a second for maybe the teams that didn't win it, but I think the Dodgers did fantastic. Manny Machado is one of the best 5 players in baseball. They have a stash of prospects from which to give up. Obviously, they gave up a big prospect, so their reputation as being stingy with giving up prospects out the window at this point. Yusniel Diaz is an excellent outfield prospect. So the Orioles did fantastic too. For a rental to get a top 50 prospect, and I believe he is that. I think he's better than Florio from the Yankees, one of the top outfield prospects in baseball. So I think the Orioles did absolutely fantastic. They got 4 other players. They may not be ranked that high, but you look at their stats, they look pretty good. Zach Pop, great name for a pitcher. Throws 96 to 98 with sink. I think he's going to be a major leaguer. So they're going to get 3 or 4 pieces, I think, that will be major leaguers. Diaz has the potential to be a star. The one little thing with the Orioles, though, is you would look at their system and say what they really need is pitching, followed by a catcher, followed by infielders, particularly now that Machado's gone and they got an outfielder. But they still have Zach Britton to trade. They have Brock to trade. They have more people to trade. So I think the Orioles did great. The Dodgers did great. If I had any criticisms, it would be with the teams that didn't get him. I thought the Phillies needed him the most. And from what I'm hearing, they really did not make a great offer. I understand their top player in their offer, and there probably were a few players, so I don't have the full offer, was Medina, the pitcher who's got a 5 ERA in Class A. That's just not going to get it done for Manny Machado. This is a guy that they love. They don't have a starting shortstop. They're not getting production from short or third. They're at the top of their division. They're doing fantastic. The one guy that could have put them over the top was Manny Machado. And obviously Milwaukee wanted him to, didn't offer enough. From what I'm hearing, and we haven't really reported this before, I don't think it's been out there, Milwaukee offered Phillips and Ortiz in a deal. They're pretty good prospects. Brett Phillips, a center fielder. Ortiz, a pitcher. Not bad at all, but not good enough to get Manny Machado.
Matthew in the comments, and I actually have the same question, is what's next for the Dodgers? I mean, you bring over Machado for a few months. Are you hoping that he falls in love with LA, falls in love with Dave Roberts, that program, and wants to stay? Do they need more pieces to bring in? Your thoughts on the Dodgers?
Well, I think the Dodgers obviously have an excellent lineup. They have a lot of versatile pieces. I spoke to Dave Roberts back out in Washington, D.C., the versatility is the name of the game with that team. Chris Taylor, one of the most versatile players in baseball. He can play second, he can play short, he can play third, he can play any of the outfield positions. Bellinger not only can play first, but he can actually move to the outfield and be an excellent outfielder. A lot of first basemen can move and play maybe left field poorly. He can play center field well. Obviously, Machado can play short, he can play third. Forsythe can play second, he can play third. So they have a lot of versatility. They have a great thing going. They have Machado for short and some third. I think that will work out fantastically. In terms of a long-term deal, I'm not counting on Machado with the Dodgers. That has not been their MO. They have not gone for the big-ticket item. Max Scherzer was begging to go there, and they didn't take him up on it. They've gone for smaller but stars. I mean, obviously, Kenley Jansen is one of the best 2 or 3 relievers in baseball. They kept him. Justin Turner, fabulous player. They have a lot of great players on this team, and they have a lot of versatility, a lot of depth. but they have not gone for that $200-300 million player. You know they can afford it, but that has not been the MO since Andrew Friedman get there. So I'm not counting on Machado staying long-term there. I'm not going to rule it out, of course. You never know. They do have the wherewithal. They did get below the threshold. I think that was to make sure they can keep Kershaw. And now with Kershaw with the injury question, maybe they will shift to Machado there. As for now, I think the Dodgers go for relief. They're very close to that 197 threshold, though. So I think I'm going to have to trade Forsythe or somebody of that ilk. I'm not sure why he wasn't traded in this deal, but they're going to have to trade somebody of that ilk to open up a little money to go get the reliever that they need.
Anthony in the comments, I'm guessing that he's a Yankees fan. He said, John, why the heck didn't the Yankees beat the Dodgers offer?
The need just wasn't there. They have Didi Gregorius. They have Miguel Andujar, who's fantastic at third. I mean, you can nitpick and say, well, he could have better defensive metrics. He could walk a little bit more, but he's done a very good job at third. I just don't think the Yankees had the need.
Agreed. Let's go back to the Phillies, a team that clearly does have the need. What do they do from now? I mean, there's a lot of talk about talking with the Twins. Where do you see them going?
I think bullpen will be really a key for the Phillies. I do think they're in on Zach Britton. That's another guy that they love. All those Phillies executives were in Baltimore when Machado was taken there. They were also there when Britton was taken there. So they love Britton. I think they're probably going to get a better idea of what it takes to get a star player, even a rental star player. You have to give up something. I mean, certainly, when you trade a great player as a rental, like Aroldis Chapman, the Yankees got Gleyber Torres back. You cannot expect to get a great player like Manny Machado for marginal prospects. So I think the Phillies might have a better lay of the land at this point to make a deal that they need to make. I do think they are going to look at the infield. Kingery is a very good, versatile player, but he's not a starting shortstop. So they will look to the Twins, I think, with Escobar or Dozier. Somebody like that, maybe a Moustakas who can play third. He could help them as well. They might look at Beltre. I don't think he's going anywhere, though. So they got the infield, they got bullpen, and we know they've talked a little bit about maybe going back and get Cole Hamels, which would be very, very exciting. And we all know Cole Hamels loves the Philadelphia.
Because why?
I think it's the cheesesteaks. I'm not sure. He hasn't said. Now, he's a very thin, very handsome guy, but he must love cheesesteaks. I don't know. I've never seen anybody that excited about Philadelphia before, but he is. It's a nice town. I'm not knocking it, but he loves it there. I mean, he's open about saying, I'd love to go to Philly.
All right, we have Andrew in Boston ready on the fan line. He's going to join us right now. We'll have to see what Andrew has to say. Andrew, are you?
Hey, good evening. Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy to be here. Yes, and welcome to you guys to the Fan Cred family. I wanted to ask you guys a quick question. As you guys already answered my Yankee question, but I wanted to ask who you guys believe is going to be the surprise buyer and the surprise seller as the trade deadline inches ever closer.
Well, I think the surprise buyer has been revealed. I think the Oakland A's are going to do some buying. They have great prospects. They made that good trade with Sonny Gray with the Yankees. They got extra prospects in, and they have very good ones anyway, from Barreto, Caprillion, Fowler. Fowler's helping their team right now. But I think Oakland has very good prospects, and they will be a buyer. As far as the seller, I think we got to look at St. Louis at this point. I mean, they're right on the cusp of the race. They're not really in the race. They're not really out of the race. It's all going to be determined the next 11 days. They play 8 games against the Cubs. So it could go either way for the Cardinals. They could go shoot down or they could shoot up. If they shoot down, obviously less chance for Mike Schilt to get the full-time job. Then we have to look at Joe Girardi and others and figure out if they shoot up, then they could be a buyer. But if they go down, again, they could easily be a seller, and they've got great pieces to sell if they're willing to give up a Carlos Martinez, a Matt Carpenter. They've got some pieces to sell. If they don't do those two, obviously Bud Norris, closer on a 1-year deal. He's been in the news lately. I could see him getting traded.
I couldn't be more excited for our next guest that is going to be joining us on the fan line. Bobby Valentine, welcome to the show. Bobby, a good friend for both of us. Obviously, when I was the reporter for the Red Sox in 2012, he was the manager. Bobby, it has been too long. How are you doing?
Jenny, you're doing better than last time I was job in Boston interviewing me after losses, and there were enough of them to make us both miserable.
There were quite a few losses. We had 69 wins the whole season.
I can't remember. I wasn't counting, Jeff.
You know what was funny about that season, though? They were over.
Thank you.
You were over 500, though, right? I mean, at one point, you were something like 54 and 52. You were started out okay, and then they started trading your whole team away. So we don't have to go over all that, but
we're not going there.
Set the record straight. I want to do it. You don't have to do it. The team was over 500 when they started to sell.
All right, Bobby, tell everyone that's watching right now, what are you up to these days?
Oh, that'll take too long. But I am the executive director of athletics at Sacred Heart University. I have a few businesses that are running very smoothly without me, but they are and I thank everyone for the hard work that they do. And I'm just enjoying life. I got a new puppy for my last birthday. He's 7 months old now. He's the joy of my life, so I'm going for it, you know?
Hey, Bobby, I know that you love Shohei Ohtani. You were the first guy that told me about Ohtani. You said this guy is incredible. What can you tell me about what you've seen so far from Ohtani? Has he surprised even you with his ability to hit as well as pitch?
Well, I'm not surprised only because guys that I trust in saw him play and said that he was as special as he looks. I'm disappointed that he was injured. There's no doubt about that. But I think he could hit. I think, he could run. He's one of those world-class athletes playing baseball, and I think he also likes the competition.
Yeah, the Angel's saying that he's able to start his throwing program. That's really good news. Bobby, keeping it on the same front, you were able to coach and be a manager over in Japan. What was the biggest difference between managing over there and managing in the States?
Well, obviously the language was different for me, Jenny, and the practice habits and the way people looked at it. They actually think that it's a job there, where I think a lot of guys here think it's just they're still playing the game that they played when they were 6 and 7, which is a really good way to play the game and work the game. And I think that stands out. The endless hours of practice, and the idea when they do something wrong, they might come out and practice an hour after the game to improve.
Bobby, you managed the Mets for a long, long time. I was there. You got the team to the World Series with the outfield. I can't even remember who was on that outfield. It was an incredible managing job, probably the best one I have ever seen. I want to ask you this about the Mets. Are they ever going to win again? And what do they need to do to get out of where they are? I mean, people are now debating. They've got 4 very good pitchers, 2 spectacular pitchers. Should they hold on to them and somehow try to build around them, even though they have no farm system? Or should they maybe make some moves?
Well, it's a $24,000 question. Jacob DeGrom pitched his first game against the Yankees. I was doing SNY. He was a 2-hitter, I think, for 6 innings, struck out some guys. I thought he was the best-looking pitcher I had seen in a long time. He has now become as good a pitcher as there is. I don't think he could ever get better. I don't think his stock could ever be higher. If they can pick from an organization with as much value as they could get for Jacob, I think they really have to trade him and build the organization, because you can't count on some of the guys who have been hurt in the past not being hurt in the future, because that's their track record. And one of them is their best hitter. One of them was one of their best pitchers, and the other was projected to be their starting catcher.
Take us inside what it's like being a manager during the trade deadline. How much say do you have on what's going on? Does it depend on the organization that you're with? What was that experience like for you?
Well, when I was with the Dodgers, I read about the trades on the bottom of the TV. And then I walked out in the clubhouse and the guys told me that when they were traded. With the Rangers, I was really in on all the trades with Tom Grieve back in the 80s. And it was a mixed bag in New York during that time. But the deadline's terrible, because the guys who think they might get moved are losing trust in you day by day. They want answers, and you can't tell them answers. You feel like you're going to be a liar, and so you tell them to wait and see. The one guy I was sure I wasn't going to trade back in 89 or 90 was Steve Buechele, who was my third baseman, great friend of mine, just had his 4th child, needed to know, wanted what's going on, am I going to get traded? finally, I went into the office and Tom Greaves said, the deadline's tonight. He's not getting traded. Tell him Pittsburgh's not giving up the 2 guys that we want. He's going to be with us a long time. I bought him lunch at my restaurant. I said, Boo, you're with us a long time. Pittsburgh's not giving up the 2 guys that Tom wants. The phone rings in the 5th inning. I have to pull Steve out of the game. Pittsburgh came back at the 11th hour, gave us the 2 players that we wanted, and the trade was made. And the guy didn't talk to me for 2 or 3 years because he thought I actually lied. And it's disheartening. So the best thing a manager could do is stay out of it and truly stay out of it, not hear anything, not be part of it, because everything in a clubhouse is built on trust.
Bobby, that is really unfair. You are a misunderstood person. We've known that for years. I remember when somebody said you were the most hated man in baseball. I never understood that. You were my favorite manager to cover. I also think you were the best manager that I covered, even though some of the others won the World Series. I think you were the best, and you were the best talent evaluator. But now looking back, I mean, you told us Rick Reed, who had been a replacement player, had like 2 lifetime victories. You said this guy was going to be our best pitcher. And I turned to Joel Sherman and said, well, who are we covering here? Does he know anything about the game? And look what happened. He won like 17 games for you. So I want to ask you, I know you won a championship in Japan. I know you got to the championship in World Series. What's your proudest accomplishment, and what's your biggest regret from your entire career?
Wow, that's a tough question, John. I think, my proudest accomplishment, that's tough. I can't name one because it would minimize others. Every time I was involved with a guy's first hit, first win, first strikeout, whatever it might be, first game in the big leagues, I felt like I was part of that achievement of theirs, and I really loved all the firsts. My biggest regret might have been leaving at ESPN, where I had a real cushy job, to go up to Boston for that year, and kind of whatever happened there. Yeah.
We got to spend some good time together, though, Bobby.
You were special. I thought they were great times. It was the 100th year of Fenway Park.
Special.
And as you remember, was a special weekend. Guys coming in, the greatest right-handed hitters, the all-star team, the pitchers. I mean, it was spectacular for me personally, and I know for the fans. But it really ended on such a sour note that I don't look back very fondly on that year.
Well, let's talk about something that you do look back fondly on. We were asking about your greatest accomplishments. You automatically went to managing. What was your best memory as a player?
Wow. For years I told people that I got my first hit against Don Gullett. That was for about 30 years until a guy on the internet who's followed my career and has been a good friend of mine said, "Hey, I just read an article where you said you got your first hit against Don Gullett. You didn't. You got your second hit against Don Gullett." And I went like this. I said, "Oh, God, that's supposed to be a great memory." But I think just being part of the major league scene for, 9 years in uniform as a player, catching my first game, I thought that was a cool accomplishment. I had never even put on the catcher's equipment before. And the manager came over and said, "Hey, you're our catcher." I went in and caught 4 innings. It was really a fun time. As a player, playing for Tommy Lasorda in the minor leagues was spectacular. And we won all the championships, and I got all the MVPs. So that was fun as a player. And I just say, when I was with Bobby Winkles and the Angels in 1973, before I ran into a wall and broke my leg, those were some of the most special days of my life because it was all happening at the major league level.
Bobby, I wanted to ask you right now, baseball attendance is down. Some people are bored by all the home runs and the walks and the strikeouts. Some people are talking about the shift, pitch clock, and all this. If you were commissioner, what would you do?
Well, the first thing I do is I take that rule away at second base. The most athletic play you would ever see on a baseball diamond was the double play. The second baseman, the shortstop coming across, doing a ballet step as he dodges the runner in midair, throws a strike to first base, and then might roll on the ground as he's doing it. That's the true athletic play of baseball. That was taken away from the game. And that is also accounted for number of runs not scoring and a number of earned runs not being recorded to pitchers. I think that was the biggest mistake baseball has ever made. And the other thing, which was exciting the fans, was the idea that the manager or a player even would argue with the man in blue. It became something of a fun event. No one ever wound up in a fight. There was never anyone taken away in a police car, but it was really cool entertainment. I don't know that a home run is entertaining. I don't know that a strikeout is entertaining unless they do what they should have done years ago, and that is state that it's okay to be entertainers and never allow someone to throw a hard object at someone's head and try to kill them because they showed them up. Get that thought out of the rule book, get that thought out of the clubhouse, and let guys be guys. When they hit a home run, let them do a cartwheel if they want to.
Right on. Right on.
You know? And if a pitcher strikes a guy out with the bases loaded, let him cartwheel off the field because that was really fun to do. But they make it so mundane. You can't show emotion. You might be showing someone up. It won't look good out on the mound. Wrong. It looks great on the mound, and it will look great in the box. So they have to get a different attitude of what they're trying to purvey to the fans. That baseball is fun, it's exciting, and it's athletic. They took the number one athletic play away. They took the argument away, and not allowing boys to be boys takes any chance of someone staying up late to say, hey, I want to see what happens after he hits the home run, not if he hits a home run, because they've seen that, and that's old hat.
Right on.
You know?
Fun again. Yes. This kind of ties in a bit. There's a lot of questions right now. There was a big story about Mike Trout not being the face of baseball and not going out of his way to market himself. Maybe that would change how people view baseball, or they would get more excited about it if Trout acted differently. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, he's a great player, and I guess he is the best player. I mean, statistically, without a doubt, I love watching him play. But he's not one of the guys with the personality that's going to keep you up late to see what he's going to do. But he doesn't need to. There's plenty of guys who will do it in his stead. We don't want someone to be something they're not. We want someone to be something they are. And a robot is not what they are. And that's all you see. The same look from the pitcher, the same look from the hitter, and my battery's dying on my phone.
You turned into a robot just as you said robot.
Sorry, guys. I have no way of plugging it in and keeping it here.
Don't worry about it. Bobby, we can't thank you enough for joining us here at Baseball. We wish you the best and hope to talk to you soon.
Jenny, you were an absolute pro. Thank you very much. I enjoyed every minute that I was with you. John, I wish I could say the same for you.
You're the best, Bobby. That's why I was one of the Bobos.
You were the pros pro, John. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bobby. Oh, he's the best. He is the best.
Lively. How about that? I mean, he's not, he's up there. He's up there with me in age department, and he thinks like a young guy. He wants guys to flip the bat and have fun and enjoy themselves.
You agree with that? I certainly
do. I am with him. I'm 100% with him. I think that is excitement. We got to get excitement back in the game. Those are some other things I hadn't thought about, was the play at second and how that's exciting, and the arguments and how that's exciting. And we've taken a lot out of the game. So he gives us something to think about.
Just want to remind the fans also that they can comment and that we'll answer their questions. And also that if they want to join us on the fan line, go to the app, the FanCred app. You'll be sent back to the producer. He will get you in touch with us so we can get you on and have a little fun with you. Now, I want to ask you about the question about Mike Trout and the comments that the commissioner said. Your thoughts overall, because it is important that there is a face of baseball, and Trout being one of the best. I automatically assume that he is one of the faces of baseball, but the Q rating says otherwise.
Yeah, I don't understand the Q rating. Maybe that's where I look old. I don't know. The guy they compared him to, Kenneth Fareed or something like that with NBA, I never heard of him. I mean,
yeah,
I watched the NBA when the finals or the semifinals, so I don't know. I guess he's a backup somewhere. I can't believe he has the same Q rating as Mike Trout. If that's true, that's a problem because Mike Trout is a terrific player. I poo-pooed it when people said he was the next Mantle. Now I do believe it. I think he is Mickey Mantle at this point. He is a fantastic ball player and a great guy, and I really have no problem with the way he handles things. He doesn't love marketing. We all know that. He's never going to be Peyton Manning. He's not going to do 1,000 commercials or 5,000 interviews. If you go up to him and you ask him, he will do an interview. He is a very polite guy. He's a little quirky. He loves the weather. Very interesting. I think he's terrific. Yeah, he loves the weather. That's his. Everybody has a hobby. I play tennis. He likes the weather, which is kind of funny being in Anaheim. I covered them for 3 years. There were no rainouts those 3 years. I don't think they've ever had a rainout for 35 years. So, I mean, it's funny to be in Anaheim. He probably should be in Philadelphia at home or something if he likes the weather. They have weather there. There's no weather in Anaheim, but that's what he loves. I understand from the commissioner they're a little frustrated because he's not out there going crazy and doing stuff all the time. But that's Mike Trout. That's his personality, and I don't think you're going to change Mike Trout. So it's not all on him, though. I mean, there are a lot of other guys that probably don't have great Q ratings either. Chris Sale or even Scherzer or Kershaw or Jose Ramirez, Lindor. I mean, Machado did this weekend because he was in trade rumors, but the rest of them, not so much.
The Q rating, too, for fans at home that don't know, it's a measurement of the appeal of a brand, a celebrity, an athlete, a company that's used in the United States. The higher the Q score, the more highly regarded the item or person. It says that Trout's Q rating is apparently a 22, meaning that just 1 in 5 U.S. adults know who Trout is. I have a hard time.
I can't believe it. We got 2 adults here. We're 2 for 2 here. I don't know. If he has a 22, I'm a negative 22. It's impossible. I don't know how he could only have a 22, and that Kenneth Fareed, who I hadn't heard of until this story came out, also has a 22. To me, that is unfathomable, but I do understand he's not out there marketing. He's not as famous as Mantle. This isn't the 50s. Times have changed. People are doing other things here and there. I don't put this all on him, though. I don't think that's really fair to do, and I understand Rob Manfred is a blunt guy. He's going to give his opinion. If they ask him, he gave his opinion. And, I mean, maybe there's a little something to it, but Mike Trout is who he is, and he shouldn't be anything else. And I think Bobby was right about that.
And I like that the Angels came out and they had Mike's back and they said, we are really happy with the person that he is, the player that he is. Do you think there's any kind of confrontation between the Angels front office and the commissioner? Is there anything going on there?
Bit. I mean, I think it's half and half. Half they wanted to kind of suck up to Mike Trout and say, we want to sign you to a long deal. We really love you. We have your back. We're even willing to rip the commissioner. But it wasn't really only willing to rip they did it lovingly. They were happy to rip the commissioner. I think Artie Moreno, if I remember correctly, and Bill Shakin from the LA Times mentioned this, he was one of the guys who didn't support Rob Manfred's candidacy to become commissioner initially. So I think there might be a little something there.
There might be something there. So we're going to switch topics a little bit. Matthew McDonald wants to know, is Carlos Martinez a legit shot for the Yankees? What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's a legit shot to be traded. Derek Gould from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch mentioned this as a possibility. They're a little over 500 now. The Cubs and the Brewers look pretty good, though. If they don't get back in the race, like I said, they have 11 games coming up, 8 of those against the Cubs. If they lose 6 out of those 8, I think all bets are off, and they might trade some of the veterans that you wouldn't think they would trade, including Carpenter and potentially Carlos Martinez, not just the Mike Bud Norrises of the world. So I think it's a possibility that he could be traded. If there's any starting pitcher out there who's good, the Yankees are certainly going to look at him, and they have great prospects, which gives you a big advantage. Just like the Dodgers had a big advantage, the Yankees have a big advantage to go get players. So do the Padres, the White Sox, and the Braves. Those are the teams that have the best prospects.
There was another move that was made today. The Indians got relievers Brad Hand and Adam Simber from the Padres for one of their top prospects. Your thoughts on that trade?
Well, the Indians absolutely needed bullpen help. Even though they're almost 10 games up in the division and the race is over, they needed to do something if they're going to do well in the playoffs. Obviously, Andrew Miller hasn't been quite himself this year. They need pen help. They've had one of the worst bullpens in baseball. They can get away with it in that division, but they get to the playoffs and you're going to be competing with Boston and the Yankees and Houston, you're going to have to be a better team. And they understand that. They went out and traded prospects to get Andrew Miller, and they've done it again here. They understood the value of the bullpen first, I think, among all teams. And I think it certainly is going to help them a lot. In terms of Mejia going to the Padres, A.J. Preller loves prospects. He knows prospects. They have the best farm system in baseball, certainly now, if not before, with Tatis and Gore and now Mejia. He is an incredible hitting talent. The question is, will he be able to be a catcher? I think we've answered the question about what Cleveland thought. They tried to trade him for Jonathan Lucroy as one of 4 players to go for Lucroy a couple years ago. So they were willing to trade him even then. I think that Cleveland didn't believe that he was a catcher. We're going to find out whether he will be a catcher, though.
Another message that we have from Low said, has anyone been in touch with the Mets on young arms?
What was that question?
Has anyone been in touch with the Mets on young arms?
The Mets.
Yes.
The Mets, right?
Mets.
Okay. Everybody's in touch with the Mets on arms. Everybody wants Jacob deGrom. The question is, are they going to trade him? I'm going to put that at about 1% right now. I just do not see them trading Jacob deGrom. I can see them trading Noah Syndergaard. Extremely talented pitcher. There's a little bit of a reliability question at this point, so I could see them considering it. He's still got incredible value. If he's out there, he's clearly the number 1 pitcher, assuming they don't move deGrom. And certainly before the Cardinals think about moving Carlos Martinez, whether they do or not. As of now, Jay Happ, who I love, he went to Northwestern like I did. The guy's terrific, but he's a middle-of-the-rotation pitcher. I don't think there's any other way to put it. So if you put Syndergaard out there, you're going to get an absolute haul, assuming he can pitch well over the next 1 or 2 starts. I do think that the Wheeler is the guy that they will trade, though, and they'll be trading high on him. He has been very good his last 2 or 3 starts, and he does have a year to go before free agency. So I do think he has some value, and I think that's the way the Mets will go. I think they're afraid to trade deGrom. I don't blame them. I understand Bobby's sentiment. I wrote a column today on FanCred saying that they should trade Syndergaard. I didn't go as far as deGrom. Bobby even thinks it should be deGrom, but Mets fans, the worst moment of their history is when Tom Seaver was traded. They don't want to repeat that.
We have another guest on the fan line from Salem, Massachusetts, is ready to join us. And I know that he has a question regarding Josh Hader's tweets that came out during the All-Star game. So there we go.
Hey, John, Jenny. I was just wondering if you guys think that if the Brewers ever end up trading Hader, if that's going to hurt his stock value, or if he ends up becoming like a free agent in the future, if that's going to hurt his contracts.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has the potential to hurt his value. I don't think there's any question about that. It's a very unfortunate situation. Those tweets, I know they're from 7 years ago. He was a kid. I think of him as a kid now. Of course, I'm a lot older than he is, but he's 24 years old. I met the guy. I thought he was a kid. I thought he acted like he was about 12, but very nice. I wrote a tweet saying, what a nice guy. He's my new favorite All-Star. And then all of a sudden, here comes the revelation that he's had these terrible, repugnant, awful tweets from 7 years ago. And I do think it hurts him personally. It hurts his value. It hurts the Brewers. It's not good for anybody. I think MLB does the right thing here by giving him sensitivity training. You can't suspend somebody over tweets out of high school. So I think they've done the right thing. Billy Beane is now in Milwaukee, I think, going to work with him. So I just hope it doesn't really ruin him. I understand people are going to be very upset. These tweets were just awful, but he needs to go from here on forward and do the best he can, be the best teammate he can be. His teammates said they love him. They want to work with him. They feel good about him. So that's a positive. And he did face the media, did answer the questions. He said he was an idiot. He said he's matured. I guess we're going to see about that. Let's try to judge him from this day forward. those were unfortunate tweets, though, and they do hurt him.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. I think that it's an eye-opening. I'm not sure if there's a little echo going on here. I'm hoping that goes away. But I think it's maybe a lesson to be learned for kids in the younger generation to realize that, everything you put out there, people are going to see it, people are going to read it. So make sure it's what you truly believe. And I hope he grows from this experience. I'm sure he will. And I do think Major League Baseball handled it the right way with the sensitivity training. And the fact that his teammates did come up and say, we've never seen this side of him. Hopefully it was just young kids saying stupid things and it ends there.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to put it. I could not agree more.
All right. So Daniel Cunningham says, hey, John, what are the odds that Tony Watson finds himself on the block?
I don't think so. The San Francisco Giants are in it to win it. They're not going to make any trades. They absolutely love what Tony Watson has done. He's been fantastic for them, as he's been fantastic throughout his career. Really an underrated and great relief pitcher. The Giants are on the cusp of the race. Obviously, the Dodgers look really good today, but there's a wild card. You never know what might happen. If Samardzija and Cueto get fully healthy and pitched like they can, you never know. They definitely have some pieces, and Crawford's been fantastic. If Posey gets completely healthy, you know what? I wouldn't rule out their chances. You never know, and they're just not the type to go and be a seller. They're near the threshold at 197. They're not over it. They're obviously playing to win this year. You spent almost $200 million. You're trying. You're not going to be a seller if you're a little bit over 500 in a division that, nobody's running away in the National League. If anybody is, the Cubs and the Brewers have been the best so far, but I don't think anybody's running away in the National League. So I don't see them as a seller.
Francis in the comments said there's a report about the Giants being interested in Albert Abreu from the Yankees. Is that true? What do you know about
that? I don't know about. I mean, the Yankees have a lot of great prospects that are going to draw a lot of interest. I think the Giants' focus today is on improving the team today, not in the future. So I'm not sure that's a now type thing for them. What the Yankees need to go out and get a pitcher. People are going to say, oh, go get Madison Bumgarner. The Giants are not trading Madison Bumgarner. There's no way they're trading him.
You in our comments just asked, is there any chance the Giants would trade Madison Bumgarner?
I get this question all the time, and my answer, and I don't deal in absolutes. I always give a little bit of but they're not trading Madison Bumgarner. They got him on an option for next year at $12 million. They love him. He's helped them win 3 World Series. They're in it to try to win it, and they're not trading Madison Bumgarner. I understand the Yankee fans are going to get excited. The guy's been an incredible winner. He's the best in the biggest moments. They love that kind of guy in New York. That's the guy they want. You know what? I don't think they're going to get DeGrom or Syndergaard. I don't think the Mets are trading DeGrom anyway. I don't think they're trading either of them to the Yankees. Maybe hope for Carlos Martinez or something like that could come up. He's a very good pitcher. That would be a big boost to the rotation. That would be the best that they could hope for. I think most likely, as we've mentioned, is Jay Happ. A good starter, solid guy, lefty, a lot of strikeouts, certainly would help their team. I think that ultimately that's most likely, but I don't know the Yankees are going to rush into anything because they're holding out some hope they might be able to get an ace, but not going to be Madison Bumgarner.
Sports and Mini wants to know, what do you think the Twins could get in return for players like Dozier and Escobar?
I don't think at this point, I love Dozier personally. I just don't think he's not having the kind of year that he normally has. He's a free agent after the year. He's a rental. Rentals don't bring much unless you're Manny Machado or Aroldis Chapman or somebody who's going to put someone over the top. The demand is not huge for a second baseman right now. I think Milwaukee, a neighbor of Minnesota, is a possibility. I think Arizona might be an outside possibility. They were in on Machado. So I don't think there are a lot of teams that are looking at second base. He's not having a good year. His salary is fairly high. I don't think you can get much for Dozier. Escobar has had a very good year. He can also play short as well as third. So I could see them getting a little more for him than for Dozier at this point, which is a surprise. I mean, Escobar was a backup player until Polanco was banned. So nobody expected this from him. He was a near all-star, really. Done a very nice job. I think that Escobar could draw interest from the Phillies. They're still going to want a shortstop. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. They didn't get Manny Machado. They love Machado. They didn't want to give up the big prospects. Well, they do have decent prospects. They can make a trade. There's shortstops out there. Most of them are just glove guys, though, really. Echeverria, potentially, Iglesias, their old friend, Freddie Galvis. They're not going to go back and get Freddie Galvis, who's a terrific defender. They want someone who can hit. So to me, Escobar makes the most sense for the Phillies because he is a very, very good hitter. He's had a lot of extra base hits this year. He surprised folks. He's actually a team leader in Minnesota. So they don't love the idea of trading him. But like Dozier, he's a free agent, so I think he will be dealt.
Daniel in the comments said, is there a top-tier starting pitcher that you think could get dealt that nobody's talking about yet?
Well, we've started talking about Carlos Martinez. So that's one guy I could see being dealt that we haven't talked about. They have other pitchers. St. Louis, who knows what they will do, open up, potentially Waka. If he gets back, he's got an oblique right now, so it's going to potentially go past the 31st. That's going to be tough. We're starting to talk. Starting to hear little names here and there that we don't hear much, but for now, I think Happ and Hamels are the two best pitchers who are going to be traded. I think Happ has the bigger market because it's cleaner. He doesn't have a no trade. He makes about $11 million this year. Hamels makes $20 million. He's got a $20 million option for next year with a $6 million buyout. I think Happ as the Yankee, when you have the Yankees, it certainly helps the team. So Toronto's got a bit of an advantage with Happ. He is the number one guy, Happ and Hamels. I do think if Carlos Martinez is traded, he vaults way over those two guys. If Syndergaard or DeGrom, obviously they're at the very top. I still bet DeGrom not being traded. Syndergaard, unlikely to be traded.
You have a new article that's about to come out about potential future Hall of Famers. Naming two guys, Yadier Molina and Chase Utley. So obviously, Yadier, he said he's open to being a player manager right now in St. Louis, which is fantastic. And, Chase Utley just announcing that he is going to retire after the 2018 season after such a successful career. What are your thoughts? Are these two potential Hall of Famers?
Someone might think I'm easygoing. I think both guys are Hall of Famers. I think Yadier Molina is an obvious Hall of Famer. He's had incredible impact, 9 all-star teams. The leader of that team, you could not run on him. I do not look at the WAR. When you're talking about a catcher, I've seen guys say, he's got about the same WAR as Russell Martin and other guys who are very good players. Jason Kendall, about the same. Not Hall of Famers. Yadier Molina, I don't think can be judged by WAR. He was incredible at calling games. The team ERA was almost a run less when he was the catcher as opposed to the backups. He led them to 2 World Series, made 9 all-star teams. Just a fabulous defensive player. I know people will pick on his offense, the 99 OPS plus, but you know what? Ozzie Smith had an 87 OPS plus. He's a clear first ballot, no doubt Hall of Famer. So I feel the same about Yadier Molina. Chase Utley's a little bit more complicated. I lean toward a yes for Utley, which means I will vote for him. To me, I would look at the WAR on this one better. I don't think WAR does anything for catcher. I think you can look at WAR at the other positions, and he had 60 WAR over a 10-year period. So an average 6-win player, which is a fabulous player. It wasn't 4 or 5 years. It's 10 years, and it's the Philly heyday. He had big impact. Obviously, he's got grit and all that other stuff. But if you look at his record and you look at his on base and how he performed in big moments, puts it over the top for me. I think it'll be a little bit more of a debatable one than Yadier. I'm surprised we're in a Yadier debate. I think that was all my colleague Brian Kenny who kind of brought that up because of the WAR. And there'll be a few people who just focus on the WAR and say, okay, I'm not voting for him in the Hall of Fame. But to me, that is nutty. I love Brian, but Brian, in this case, you're really off. You're completely wrong. Yadier Molina, a Hall of Famer.
Do you think Molina will end up being a player manager over there in St. Louis?
You never know. You don't usually find a guy who's made $20 million a year doing that, getting those kind of troubles. I mean, it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job at all. There have been very good players who've been mad. Joe Torre was an excellent player. Dusty Baker was an excellent player. Frank Robinson, a Hall of Fame player. So there have been players like that who become managers. You don't see it very often. So I think it's unlikely. In St. Louis, I think Joe Girardi's got a decent chance to be the manager. The one knock on Girardi is he's a lot like Matheny. He's a very intense guy, very prepared guy, very focused guy, many good qualities, but he's intense and tough, and you wonder how the young players might respond to a very similar guy to Mike Matheny. Mike Matheny was very successful. It's funny to look at it, though. Girardi had no losing records in New York. Matheny had no losing records in St. Louis. Both got fired. there's a lot. These guys have a lot in common. Normally, when a team fires a manager, they bring in the opposite. Now, Girardi does have a rapport with Mozeliak. He finished his career in St. Louis. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm not so sure he's the perfect. I actually think Dusty Baker is a better fit in St. Louis. He's an older guy, but he's an easygoing guy who gets along with the young players. They all love him. Look at how he did in Washington. I think the people in Washington believe it was a mistake to fire him. Nothing against Davey Martinez, who I love. Dusty Baker did not deserve to be fired. He should still have a job in Major League Baseball. And I think he'd be a very good fit in St. Louis because they have young players who will respond to him. The Athletic did a poll recently. What's the manager you most want to play for? What's the manager you least want to play for? Dusty Baker, I think, was the only non-current manager who got votes on what's the manager you most want to play for. That tells you something about how much the players love Dusty Baker.
Was it Madden #1 that came out?
Madden was #1 in most want to play for, and he was almost #1 in least want to play for. I think he was second in the least want to play for. So Madden is a polarizing figure. He's an entertaining guy. I love him. He's great for the media.
Awesome.
Some players love him, and maybe some players not so much. But obviously, a huge success. World Series in Tampa, championship after 108 years in Chicago. You got to give him credit. He's a very good manager. Whether there are a few that don't want to play for him, ultimately, that doesn't matter that much.
No, he was always great with the media, and that's obviously what.
Yeah.
So we have another fan that's going to come on. It's Sam from Boston, but he has a Yankees question on the fan line. Sam, interested to hear this one. He should be here.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Sam.
All right, yeah, I got a Yankees.
In full uniform. Got the uni on.
So obviously their biggest need is pitching. They missed out on Machado. I didn't really want them to get Machado because they don't really have any room for him. What move realistically do you think they could make? Like, I know that there's been rumors of Bumgarner, DeGrom. I think those are kind of far-fetched. You talk about a guy like Zach Wheeler, Nate Eovaldi, something like that. What do you think is in the ballpark for them?
Yeah, the most likely move is Jay Happ, and we're going to be talking about this right till the end. I think the Yankees are going to wait till the end in hopes, not that Bumgarner is not going to be available. So hopefully we won't talk about Bumgarner anymore, but he's not available. In the hopes that they could somehow, and they have no belief that the Mets will trade with them. They talked to them last year about Walker, Duda, Bruce. None of these deals ever came to fruition. So the Yankees do not believe the Mets will trade with them. But you might as well hold out and wait until the end because DeGrom is an ace. Syndergaard is an ace. J-Happ, very good pitcher, but not DeGrom or Syndergaard. So, I think DeGrom is not going to go to the Yankees. I think Syndergaard, very unlikely to go to the Yankees. I think you got to wait it out, though. So we'll see. Carlos Martinez is a possibility. Maybe Yankee fans will be looking at the Chicago and St. Louis series that are coming up. 8 games, as I said. If they start going downhill and Martinez is available, that is a perfect Yankee. The Yankees have the best system of any of the teams that are in the race. And Atlanta has a good system, but the Yankees, I think, have the deepest system, and they're the most willing to make deals of these teams. So Carlos Martinez becomes available. I think the Yankees make a lot of sense.
Sam, great question. Big fan of Sam. All right, we're going to – wow, it's already 8:45. Holy moly. Let's talk about midseason awards right now before we ask anything. We can have our fans that are watching. They can write in right now. You can ask anything you want to John or I, which is a little scary. You can join us using the app and ask anything or even just comment, and we will try to get to it. But we're at the halfway point of the season, a little over the halfway point of the season. Your mid-season awards just came out. There are some things that I have questions about. Your AL MVP, you had Mookie Betts. I obviously, as a Boston fan, like this pick. But a lot of people are going to say, what about Mike Trout?
Well, Mike Trout, obviously fabulous, best player in the game, in my opinion. Mookie Betts is right there with him. I don't really understand why Trout always has a better WAR than Mookie Betts, because everyone tells me Mookie Betts is the best right fielder or the best outfielder, or, I don't quite get it. If he has better offensive stats, why isn't his WAR better? So, I'm going to question that. I'm not going to go directly by WAR. I'll look at it, but to me, Mookie Betts is having the best year of any player. I think Trout is really good. He's number 2 in my opinion. Jose Ramirez, fantastic. Again, he was third last year. I'd have him third this year. JD Martinez, fantastic. Any of these guys, the American League is absolutely stacked, as we saw in the All-Star game. They have right now the 4 top offensive players in the game. But I'm going to favor Mookie Betts. I favored Mookie Betts 2 years ago, and he didn't win, and by quite a bit. So don't go by me. And I have an NL MVP vote this year, so it doesn't really matter what I think.
And who's your NL
Well,
MVP?
right now I can tell you because we're not ready to vote. To me, I like Freddie Freeman. I think he's fabulous. He's been waiting patiently for that team to come around. It's come around him. He's got Nolan Arenado, I think, is a good contender, but his splits, you got the Coors Field thing going there. I kind of favor Freeman right now.
We're going to go back to the AL. Your AL Rookie of the Year. Also something that might be a little controversial.
People didn't like this choice. It's out there already, and people did not like this. I like Shohei Ohtani, and this is before I talked to Bobby Valentine. I mean, to me, he's doing something we've never seen before. He's an amazing, amazing player. He's doing something spectacular. So that's why I favor Ohtani. I didn't even look at his stats. I don't even care what his stats are. I'm just so amazed. To me, he's the standout Rookie of the Year. I've never seen it before. Gleyber Torres is fantastic. He's probably going to win. Most people don't agree with me on this or most other things. So I wouldn't get discouraged, people who are upset, and I know there are a lot of them out there. Gleyber Torres will win this award, I'm sure. But to me, Shohei Ohtani is deserving. And if I were up to me, I would have put Ohtani on the All-Star game. To me, he's an All-Star. I've never seen the thing before. It's fantastic. And I'd like to have seen him there. I would have liked to see him in the Home Run Derby, but I don't think the Angels – Trout's never been in the Home Run Derby, and that's nothing to do with marketing. I don't think the Angels ever approve a Home Run Derby, except for Vlad Guerrero. They figured you can't mess up his swing. He can be in the Home Run Derby. But with Trout, they don't want him in there. And I assume that with Ohtani, with the injury, they probably don't want him in there either.
Probably not. We're going to get to Jake from Boston shortly on the fan line. But first, we're going to talk your AL manager and your AL GM for the midseason awards. You have Alex Cora and Dave Dombrowski. Obviously, the Red Sox doing some impressive work the first half of the season. Was that an easy pick for you?
It was for me. They've got distance between themselves and the Yankees. I thought the Yankees were the better team on paper. So, to me, Alex Cora is the manager of the year. Dombrowski made the best move. He got JD Martinez for $110 million. You can't do much better than that. He's one of the best 3 or 4 hitters in baseball. Fabulous player. Now he's going to work out. He's going to be okay for him. He's got 3 opt-outs. He's not going to have to suffer with the $110 million. He'll do a little bit better. But in terms of bringing him to Boston and putting Boston back on the map in terms of being a powerhouse and replacing the Big Papi, this was the way to go. And he knew it. He knew the guy, and he made it happen.
All right, Jake from Boston is going to join us on the fan line. He has a question about the Red Sox. Not sure where he's going with it, but Jake, whenever you are ready.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So, obviously, the Red Sox had an unbelievable first half. A lot of people think their starting pitching can't really carry them into the second half and into the playoffs. I was just wondering if you think they have enough, or they have what it takes to beat the Yankees, or really just make a deep playoff run.
Well, they're on their way to 110 victories, it seems. So I can't rule out a team with 110 victories. They have Chris Sale, who it seems to me right now is probably the best pitcher in the game. And in that division, to be putting up those numbers, I know a lot of people are going to say Scherzer, but he's in the NL East. To be in the AL East, I think with those ballparks that he's pitching in, Baltimore too, not just New York and Toronto, they're all hitters' parks. I think he's the best pitcher. So you have the best pitcher. And you know what? They're not throwing him as many pitches per game now. So I think he's going to finish better than he has in the past. And I like Porcello very much. I think he has very good stuff. Obviously, he was a Cy Young winner recently. Kate Upton may have something to say about that, but he was a Cy Young winner. You can't argue with that. And to me, Rodriguez, when he comes back, he's very good. I think Price is very good, but you know what? I think they're a little concerned if he plays the Yankees. We might see him in the bullpen role where he's absolutely fabulous. But to me, I think that their concern is the bullpen right now. That's where they're looking. That's where they need to do something. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it, though, because if you look at their prospect list, it's down this year, right? They've got one guy who's been banned, who's in the minors. You got another guy who's hurt. they're not what they used to be. They used to have the best prospect list. Right now, they have among the weakest of the contenders. So it's not going to be easy for them to do. It's going to be hard for them to get somebody like Britton. Certainly to get Iglesias, I can't see that happening. They're going to have to go for more of a Soria or a Familia or something like that. But you put one of those guys as a setup guy, that's a pretty good situation to be in.
Thank you. I want to ask you, just following up on that whole Price Yankees situation, what do you think is that just all a mental problem?
I don't know whether they've got his pitches or he's tipping them. It's unbelievable to me. I saw a game once, and some people might remember this. I think the Yankees had about 7 or 8 or 9 hits in a row to start the game against him. It's shocking to see a guy left-handed throwing 96 miles an hour and to be hit around like that. You immediately think that he's tipping pitches. You'd think, well, maybe is he choking? Is he not the same? But if you're throwing 95, 96 the same, I don't see it. I actually, and no one's going to admit to it, I think he must be tipping his pitches, and the Yankees must have them.
Something's going on there. All right, that's it.
Thank
you so much for tuning in to Inside Baseball. We were just chatted for an hour. We're going to be here every Thursday, 8 p.m. for the remainder of the season. Everyone that's watching, make sure you follow Jon on the app. He'll be posting his news, highlights from the show. And join us next week by using the fan line on the app so we can take your questions face-to-face. Thank you so much. Jon, this is fun.
Absolutely, Jenny. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.